right, everyone, we talked recently about the basic polishing, the basics, the basic products. We've launched a package. If you're not familiar, we'll put a link in the description, but go to the Obsessed Garage page, go under polishing, and we have a basic package with like what I think you need to get started. And we talked a lot about the simplicity of just pick a good compound and a good finishing polish with a good compounding or a cutting microfiber pad and a good finishing pad. Two basic machines for less than $1,000. You could solve a car like this, make it much better. Not chase perfection, but make it look much better than it did from the start. Well, today I'm not going to get into advanced techniques. I've talked about this 1,000 times. What I want to get into today is the difference and show you the products. I'm just going to start pulling stuff out of my cabinet here. Now, there are many more things out there that you could use or you could have for polishing. I try to keep my polishing arsenal and my cabinets flush with things that I'm using. And so let's kind of work our way through the must-haves and the luxuries. I would guess this, if we exclude the air compressor we're going to talk about here in a second, I would guess you were probably somewhere around $4,000 or $5,000 worth of stuff versus less than $1,000. And so this is when when you start really getting into this. If you're doing cars all the time, certainly if you're doing it for a living, you should be amassing a decent collection of tools to make your life easier and make your life more efficient. But if I were giving you any business advice as a white collar business guy, if I'm talking to detailers, I'm talking to them about time and place. You want to start with professional grade tools, so I think you want to avoid buying the cheap stuff. You could certainly get paid using the Griot's machines. Many of you watching this probably already do, but I would want to figure out my progressive path. And so for me, if I was starting a detailing business, I would start probably with some basic stuff and work my way into things that could, one, improve my user experience, improve my efficiency. Maybe I could also use that to market a little bit too, saying, hey, I'm using the best products on the planet. And so you start doing that as you get more flush with clients, right? So you start raising your prices because your expertise warrants it, and then you start amassing and acquiring better tools for the job, better lights, a better garage, a better mobile setup, and then eventually, after you've amassed all of that, then you start to amass and put together multiple sets of it because you start hiring some people, and before you know it, you're in the office all day working on the business, not in the business. So I think that's the detailer's path. But for us enthusiasts, that's what I'm going to approach this as, this video, talking to you from a hardcore enthusiast. Right, a professional grade enthusiast. I like to fancy myself as if I could do it, if I wanted to do it, I could do it. And so I like to have, great stuff because I really value the user experience. So whether or not I was selling this crap, I would have this still. So, that assuming I had a good enough job to pay for it all. So let's just start pulling stuff out of the cabinet and start thinking through this. So I have two claw tools. There's one here, one here. So I have two claw tools. I don't know why, but I feel like I've always got like one on each side of the car. So the Rupes claw tool is something I think you want. This guy. So this will be coming. I don't think anybody has these in stock anywhere. This is going to be the sort of standard machine. But this is the Mirka. I forget what the model is. It's like AROP-B 312NV, and then this is the dual battery version. So you want this guy, but this is $880 for that 3-inch polisher. Pretty hefty price point. The other things I want, Esoteric carries these. I don't. Esoteric detailing. So these are two door props. So hood door prop. These are made by KTC, which is a Japanese tool company. But I think that Kamikaze purchases these from KTC, and then they brand them Kamikaze, but it says KTC on it. I don't need any of these. Then we get into tools. So we talked about the Griot's machine. I think having the Flex machine. I only use the Flex PXE80. I know many of you like the PXE80. I'm only using that machine when I need to use this guy. So now we're getting into big time luxury. So that's this little rope handle thingy. And then the only thing that stinks about this, it's not a random orbit, it's just a direct drive. And then you would take and get these various, it comes in a kit. We have this in the store. So this would be for underneath door handles. Not ideal. You almost need a third hand. So you kind of need somebody to hold the machine, because it'd be nice for you to kind of work this, because since this is a direct drive, it's like a drill basically, and I come up under the door handles here, I do need to be careful not to, you know, blow through the paint because there's no random orbit here, and so this is a rotary action. And then you can't just let this sit, because then it wants to twist on itself. And so I find that what I end up doing is this kind of deal. You know, and so you almost need a third person, somebody to help you out with this. So if I'm over here on this, I'm doing the old leg pincheroo, and I'm kind of doing that. But now, I mean, this is pretty much, this is a big time luxury. I'm really only using this for this application when I'm doing under door handles. I know there's a bunch of accessories for this. Maybe I should get into that. Maybe I'd find myself using it more. I think it's a terrible 1-inch because it's too big, and it's a terrible 3-inch. And so I know what a lot of guys do. There's a lot of guys making modifications where you can extend it out so you can get into tighter areas. So maybe I should look into that more. I think it might become more useful that way. So then other tools that I think are a luxury to have. So this is my favorite 3-inch corded. This is the Flex XFE 12, so it's a 12 millimeter orbit. I think it's better than the Rupes machine. Part of the reason is that the speed control is where I can see it, but it has a little more output, a little more torque. It's a little bit smoother. So even though this is a corded machine, which I find myself using more rarely, I do like having these, so I haven't gotten rid of these from my cabinet because I do find myself grabbing them sometimes if I'm really working 3-inch. And I mean, this kind of renders it almost obsolete. The problem with this is it doesn't have a trigger lock. So if you're really working a large area for a long time with a 3-inch and you need some serious torque, I'm gonna do the XFE 12. But this thing's been sitting in a cabinet for quite some time. I haven't used it much. Big time luxury. So let's set these aside. We'll come back to the pneumatic stuff and talk about, you know, air compressor and all of that. So then in this drawer, I think you still need a Rupes LHR 15. I know some guys have been getting rid of them and selling them in favor of the Milwaukee. So I rarely end up, so these two guys were my staple, right? Pretty much everybody's staple, a solid 3-inch, and the 15 millimeter Bigfoot, and this has replaced it. So my new combination of what I'm using most of the time, or all the time, are these two. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, because I'm not doing this for a living, I can't imagine that I would, you know, really break these out very often, if ever again. We'll put this over in the pneumatic category as well, and we'll talk about that when we talk about those in a second. Now this guy, I'm a little confused on this guy. This is $400. This is $880. This is not 2 times better than this. You know, it's kind of, you know, the gears in it. Pretty different. I found that this one continues to get a little bit worse as time goes on, but the ergonomics of this and the fact that I can hold this, I can work with this all day, you know, versus this can get kind of annoying as I'm holding this. You know, it would be nice. This thing would be like the best thing ever if it had a trigger lock and I could hold it like this and not have to deal with the trigger. man, that would make this, no question, worth every penny. So it's almost like we have to have a little bit of a hold up for this machine that makes this machine more viable. So to me, there's not much better than not having to deal with a cord or air. And so despite some of the idiosyncrasies of this, some of the deficiencies of this machine, like, you know, if money was a really significant subject here and I wasn't willing to spend the money on the Mirka, I mean, this combination is what I've been using for ever since this came out. Having to not have to unplug stuff, because I like to walk outside and blow up my pads, and I like to blow it out after every pass. It just can't hurt anything, makes my pad go a little longer, make sure that I'm getting a consistent cut and consistent polish throughout the whole process. So, you know, if you're asking for my advice, you know, if you can swing this, and if we can actually get these in the country, these are from Finland, I think is where Mirka is made. And so I've ordered them. I ordered 50 of them. I know that Beaver Tools was like one of the few companies that was selling them, and they don't have them, so you really can't get it. And then I know my friend Bradley from Naples Auto Armor has been really putting this through its paces, and so the backing plates, we're going to need to make sure we have replacement backing plates for this, because this Velcro isn't as good as it is on the Rupes stuff. But you know, in a perfect world, I've got these guys that I'm doing most of the work with, and then I've got these guys as my backup, and I've got this. I'm just not willing to give this up in my drawer. So, you know, I have given up the Rupes 3-inch electric, so you won't see that here anymore. I would guess that someday I'll give up these two, and then possibly give this up if we had a trigger lock, and I have the PXE 80 as my, you know, sort of toothbrush tool, my tiny tool. But right now I want them all. So I have all of these in the cabinet. I don't like waste. I don't like redundancy. I still have a task for all of these tools, and if you're doing more sophisticated polishing. Then, this is when you get real ridiculous. So if you have one, choose one, you're gonna choose the Nano long neck. If you're not willing to choose, I have quads, what we call it here at Obsessed Garage. Quads meaning dual action, set up for rotary, dual action. Short neck, long neck, quads. It makes me happy. I'm sorry. You can tell me I suck. Tell me what you want. But you know, what are these? $400 at four, so that's $1,200 for those suckers there. So that's how we get into the, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 worth of stuff to polish. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. I think if I was in a professional setting, and especially if I had multiple guys working for me, you're going to want a bunch of these suckers, and I'll want to build like a battery station where I have all my battery charging. I just break mine out because I polish maybe once a month on average. So, you know, because I'm changing cars all the time. So sometimes, like this month, I'll polish 2 or 3 different cars, and then I won't do anything for 2 or 3 months. But on average, I'm doing about a car a month, and I'm generally going pretty deep into it. So I'll break out all my charging stuff. And so I have 2 different Rupes chargers, the Mirka charger, and then the Flex charger. And then I have extra batteries in here. I keep my batteries charged and kind of cycle through. So, and I also keep all my Rupes Nano accessories here. I don't do a lot of interior detailing, so I don't use a lot of the brushes and stuff like that. But this is, I think, what an enthusiast who doesn't eat cheeseburgers in the car, I think this is what you're going to end up with. Then in polishes, I have what I keep in my cabinet. This is my polishing cabinet right here. So I keep Griot's Fast Correcting Cream, Perfect Finish. And I keep a big thing of Perfect Finish and a small thing of Perfect Finish. I only keep one size of Griot's because they only make one size. They do make a gallon, but I don't like to buy gallons of polish because I don't polish enough to where I would I'd use it. I'd probably end up wasting the gallon. Then I have Sonax Cut Max. Now, when I told you about the basic video, I said just do these two. I mean, well, do these two. Perfect Finish, Correcting Cream, and yellow pads and yellow microfiber from Rupes. Then I have in my cabinet, I have Ultra Cut from Car Pro. I have Just Car Correction Compound, and I have a big and a small generally. I have Rupes Blue. I have Rupes Yellow. And I have Rupes Uno Pure Ultra Finishing Polish. Put this over here. And I have some Siri glass, which about dead. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different polishes. 90% of the time I'm gonna do this, or maybe this. So Perfect Finish and Just Car Griots. Sometimes I'm going to break out the sledgehammers, just depending on the paint system. I do like having a mid-tier or mid-grade polish in the cabinet, and then I rarely use this, but sometimes I might want to just jewel something up. And so having some different compounds, having these 4 different compounds, actually 5 different compounds here. So having 5 different compounds is, you know, depending on the paint. One could argue that you could just adjust your methodology or method with any one of these. I think if I were going to choose one heavy compound, I'd probably, that I could manipulate, I could adjust how much product I'm using, or maybe dilute or spray some water or something like that. This is a non-diminishing. All these others are diminishing, I believe. Yeah, so this is the diminishing, 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 diminishing. So these all start at a cut and then they finish out a little bit differently. This is a non-diminishing type of tech, and then this is a diminishing as well, Perfect Finish. So I like having a non-diminishing. I used to have 105, 205, but those suck. The 110, 210, I don't like at all. I never liked 105, 205 wasn't as bad. It's just 105, I feel like cakes up and makes a big mess. But I used to have M101, which this replaces, and then this would be replacing my 205. If I just want something where I know it's not going to diminish and I just need it to be simpler, easier to deal with. And then I have an ultra finishing, non-diminishing polish. So those are the polishes that we have. You gotta have tape. So I have a 2-inch, 1-inch, 1/4 inch, and I usually like to keep 2 of each of these in the cabinet at all times. You can see I need to go replenish that. So I have tape. This is just some Mirka tape that I was testing out. That's why I have this. So then, if we get into even more sophisticated stuff, you know, we need to blow out pads. Actually, let's talk about pads before we get into that. So then pads. So I'm now all Rupes. You can see some Meguiar's back there, but I've made the transition. So in the basic package, I'm doing Rupes Yellow and Rupes Yellow. You know, their new microfiber pads are freaking awesome. It's the first pad I think that's better than Meguiar's. I actually like the yellow is sort of the medium. The only difference really is the interface. So the yellow pads are more contourable. I found myself using these more on Porsches and cars with more contours. The blue, you can see I find myself, I had equal amounts of these, so you can see I've used more yellow than white, and certainly more of the yellow and white than the blue pads. But the blue pads have a really spongy, coarse backing. So I guess if you're really leaning in on a bunch of flat panels, you're doing like F-150s or 250s or something like that, maybe that makes sense. And so you have microfiber cutting, all cut the same, just with a different interface. I have yellow and white Rupes finishing in 2-inch, 3-inch, 1-inch, and 5-inch. Notice I didn't have any 6-inch or 7-inch pads. I didn't have any of the bigger stuff. I don't keep that in my cabinet. And then oftentimes certain paint systems will do better with wool. And so I have blue wool or coarse wool and medium wool from Rupes as well. So we have these pads in 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch and 5-inch in all the sizes. And then we stock these like country 1-inch microfiber because Rupes and Meguiar's don't make 1-inch microfiber cutting pads. And then if we're talking ultimate arsenal here, I want to have 12 of each at all times. So 12 of each in all sizes. And so you're talking, you know, probably $1,500 worth of pads. And then let's say you polish this car, then go to obsessivegarage.com and buy more pads. Or actually, I take it back. That's me, because I'm selling I only use pads one time and I sell them. You would just wash them. But if you disintegrate a pad or a pad wears out, cycle through them, and then, you know, but I would keep 12 of each pad in an ultimate setup, even if I was just doing it like I am once a month or once every couple of months. Build your arsenal of pads, that way you have them. You will cycle through them more, use more of them, they'll last a lot longer. And shoot, if you had this cabinet worth of pads, and you could probably get by, if you were a prosumer like me, you could probably get by for 5-6 years before you need to replace any of them. So that would be something important to mention. So then, if you really want to get into more sophisticated stuff, I just happen to have one of these compressors here that I'm going to be testing out. But to blow out pads, you want some form of an air compressor. This here is a really interesting one I'm testing. We're going to test out. I haven't turned it on yet, but this is from Werther. This is a replacement for the FIAC rotary screw, the one that I have in Helen, the one that I had in my previous house, the one that I previously had in here. That's the FIAC screw compressor. So this, when you do rotary screw in a consumer garage, because you're never really getting the thing duty cycled, you're not getting it up to temperature, you can end up with oiling, rusting, head issues, you know, and so these have a e-oil heater on it. I don't know how good this thing is going to function, but these deliver about 12 CFM, so you can run your pneumatic off of it, a single pneumatic, and then you have quite a bit of air capacity with an 80-gallon tank. Right now, what I have is a more robust unit. This is a piston compressor. So this is a traditional type. This is a low RPM silent piston. There's a big shroud over the top of this to keep it quiet. This thing operates at 59 decibels. This one operates at 64, 65 decibels. So quite a bit louder, but still much, much quieter than a normal piston compressor. I've got some pretty sophisticated, the Prevost Micro Air with our regulator, and then Prevost piping throughout with Mormon Spec. These are ones that I spec specifically with Cox. So they have a special spring in them to compensate for our special hose. So we have Obsessed Garage Spec. And actually this is the old one. Our new ones have stainless on the side, I believe. But this is our Continental F5 hose that we do, and with Prevost fittings. So I have Prevost Euro couplers on here, so we can then attach and utilize our Rupes pneumatic stuff. So this is where it just gets into, it depends on my mood. This is one of the coolest machines ever. Most 3-inch machines are 12 millimeter orbit. The Mirka, the Griots, the Flex, they're all 12 millimeter. This is a 15 millimeter orbit. Not a lot of torque, so you can't lean into this. But this puppy is a what they call a dual action 15 millimeter orbit pneumatic machine. Super, super smooth. Lots and lots of cut with this without putting a lot of pressure into it. These two I rarely use, but I just can't quite give up. These are what they call their triple action machines. So this is the 5-inch pneumatic. These have a gear set in the head, so they develop quite a bit more torque. 15 millimeter orbit, 12 millimeter orbit on the 5-inch. So you don't get as much throw on the 5-inch machine. These are really expensive too. These are like $500-600 each. These are something that I keep in the cabinet. I find myself using rarely, but it is, maybe I'll use it on the hood here on this sucker. It'd be nice to have. So if I were to go and add all this crap up, talking quite a bit of money. Last thing I think with polishing, again, you have your airline. You want to have your, so what I'll do is hang this on the door. You want to have your Tornador. So we have these in the store. Tornador set up on my 360 coupler. And so this is where we'll be able to blow out our pads. And then I'll usually just hang this on the door and then hopefully people get the point to start coming in this door, you know, and while I'm polishing. And then I'll have a couple of different towels. I like a low pile towel if I can help it. So we have these 70-30 towels from the rag company. This is an edgeless 365, I believe. So this is a 365 GSM towel. And then I have the, actually no, this is a edgeless 240. And then this is the Eagle edgeless 350, so 350 GSM. And I like to have 20 of each of these towels in my cabinet. And then I'll wash them with rags to riches, and you'll have some carpet eraser as well in a Presso bottle. But I think that gets you the gist of what I'm doing, what I'm using when I'm polishing. I've got all this crap out, and I'm ready to kind of do the work. You also, I guess I could save this for another video. We have some lighting solutions as well. So I have all the different lights available. The lights in here are Cree linear fixtures, which we sell. But I will need to break out the scan grip stuff. I have the different scan grip color match, the sun match lights, headlamps, stuff like that. Inspection light, and then I'll use those, pretty often. I don't find myself using the Phoenix lights. This was like our original light that we were using to inspect paint. The scan grip stuff is so much better, but this is not a bad experience. Maybe I'll start using this again. So lighting, I'll make a separate video. We have some videos up on the website if you're interested in my take. If you just go to obsessivegarage.com, go to the lighting section, detail lighting, and I'm pretty clear about what we're using there. So I'm going to finish polishing this car. I just wanted to share with you all the different products and sort of show you the difference. If you go watch the basics video versus the ultimate, like this is like the Mormon spec, what I like to use, it gets into snobbery pretty quickly. But to me, it's about pursuing an excellent process. I like function, I like the performance of products, I like having the products. There's many more polishers and other tools that I've given up because I only have a certain amount of allocated real estate for this stuff. I guess I'd probably figure out if I needed more tools, I'd figure out where to put it. But I try to keep it down to the tools that I am using, with the exception of the corded stuff, which has its time and place. The pneumatic stuff, which is sometimes just nice to have and play with, depending on what we're doing. Having various polishes available, but not so many that it's overwhelming. I've given away and thrown away more products than probably most humans on Earth ever have in this particular realm. So I like to keep, like I said, what I'm using and using regularly. So that's the ultimate setup here for polishing. Go to obsessivegarage.com. We have some different packages you can put together. All the stuff is in there a la carte. I think pretty much everything. I don't have CarPro Ultra Cut. I bought that to work on the Brewster car. I don't think I have Uno Pure or the yellow stuff either. But we'd have all this other stuff I showed you is available on the site. It's super helpful to me if you purchase it from us. Right now, as you're watching this video, we're in the midst of what's called a capacity sale. I don't run sales. I'm hoping to provide you more value by selecting products and curating them and showing you the performance of them, giving you a shopping list. So many of you have been so kind to purchase from me, even though all this stuff you could get anywhere. It's super helpful to me, but we're running a 9% off, free shipping over $500 for a week in September. We're trying to test our system. We got new software, and we're trying to see how that how we do, and we really want to break it so that way we can make improvements to it and make our system more efficient. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. I'm going to finish the Evo. The Evo's about to hit the streets. I've decided to hold off on doing the suspension. I'll do that later on. I want to drive it for a little bit. Windows are tinted, car's about to get coated. I've got to polish the front clip here, and it's ready to rock. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.